the dying star burned like a wound in the void. Its light, red and pulsing, spilled across the command deck of the Varkash Dominion flagship, refracting through the crystalline hull until the chamber itself seemed to bleed. Rows of alien officers stood in perfect stillness, sleek figures with silver carapaces and eyes like shards of obsidian. The air hummed with power, and at the center of it all stood a single relic resting upon a pedestal of dark glass, the blade of Orkor. They said it had been forged before the first Varkash learned speech, before their species crawled from the ash seas of their homeworld. A weapon of impossible gravity, bound by something older than science, older than physics. It shimmered faintly, not with reflection, but with an inner light that shifted between blue and black, as though it remembered the stars that died to create it. And beside it, bound by protocol and curiosity, stood Lieutenant Mara Holt, human, soldier, out of her depth. Her boots clicked on the obsidian floor as she approached the dais. Around her, alien eyes tracked her every movement. Her breath fogged slightly in the chilled air, but her pulse ran hot beneath her skin. She was aware of the silence, of the scrutiny, of the weight of what this moment represented. The first human ever allowed aboard the Dominion flagship, and possibly the last. At the head of the assembly, Admiral Threxenvar, warlord of the Dominion fleet, towered like a living statue. His armor was scaled from the hides of extinct beasts, his gaze cold and calculating. "You understand why you are here, human?" he asked, his voice reverberating through the chamber like a distant thunderclap. Mara's throat was dry. To represent the Terran Alliance, she managed, in good faith. A low vibration filled the air, laughter, but not the kind born of joy. "No," Threxen said. "You are here to fail." The words hung heavy. Behind her, Mara could feel the eyes of her escort, 2 Terran Marines, silent and tense, shift with unease. She didn't look back. She held her ground. "You invited me to witness your ritual. I didn't come to be humiliated." Threxen's mandibles flexed slightly, the alien equivalent of a smirk. "Your kind believes itself equal. Your fleets travel where you are not wanted. You colonize worlds uninvited. You claim kinship with the stars, but you have never earned their respect." He gestured toward the blade. "Prove otherwise." The hum in the air deepened. The officers stepped back as though distance might spare them from what was about to happen. Mara looked down at the weapon, its edge so thin it seemed to split light. The stories came back to her in flashes, that no living being could lift it, that those who tried were shattered from within. She swallowed. "What happens if I fail?" Threxen tilted his head. "You will not fail. You will die." For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound was the faint crackle of the star outside, its flares painting long shadows through the chamber. Mara took one step forward. Her body screamed for caution. Her training screamed for retreat. But pride, that ancient, dangerous ember of humanity, burned brighter. She reached out. The blade's hilt looked deceptively simple, a black curve of metal wrapped in bands of silver wire. When her fingers brushed it, the world went silent. Every frequency, every vibration in the ship, vanished into stillness. Then came the pull. It wasn't weight. It was resistance, as if the weapon were anchored to the bones of the universe itself. Her hand trembled. Muscles locked. 1,000 invisible threads seemed to drag her arm downward. Her vision flickered, memories flashing behind her eyes, boot camp on Luna, her mother's voice, the silence of space before the first battle she survived. The blade whispered. Not in words, but in understanding. It knew her. It measured her worth and found her small. She heard the Admiral's voice through the haze. "You see? The void rejects you. Humanity is weak. Step away, before your mind burns." But she didn't. She remembered why she joined the fleet. Not for medals. Not for politics. For her father, who'd died defending a human colony Threxen's forces had glassed 5 years ago. She'd promised she would stand before them one day. She'd promised she would make them see. And so she pushed. Pain shot through her arm, up her shoulder, through her spine. Her knees buckled. The hum returned, now a roar, shaking the walls, rattling the deck plates. The aliens stepped back, their expressions unreadable. Even Threxon's composure faltered. Mara's breath came ragged. Blood traced from her nose. Her grip tightened. And slowly, impossibly, the blade moved. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The pedestal cracked, thin lines of blue light spreading across its surface. Energy coursed up her arm, igniting every nerve. Her vision burned white. She thought she heard the star outside scream. Then, with a sound like shattering crystal, the blade of Orcor rose into her hand. For a heartbeat, time stopped. Mara stood, trembling, holding what no alien or human had ever held. The weapon thrummed alive, resonating with her heartbeat. Its edge shimmered brighter, 1,000 tiny stars flickering along its length. Admiral Threxon took a single step forward. His eyes, black and fathomless, reflected the impossible sight. "No," he whispered. "That cannot be." Mara's knees gave out. She dropped to one knee, the blade still in her grip, the air around her crackling with residual power. Every alien in the room stared in horrified reverence. She looked up at the Admiral, blood on her lips, defiance burning in her eyes. "You said no human could lift it," she said hoarsely. "Guess you were wrong." The chamber erupted, shouts, alarms, the flare of energy fields collapsing. The dying star outside pulsed once, brighter than before, as if echoing her defiance. Threxon turned sharply, barking orders in a language of clicks and growls. The officers scattered. The lights dimmed. But Mara only stared at the blade, at the way it pulsed, in rhythm with her heart. Something ancient had awakened. And it had chosen her. As the alarm screamed and the flagship trembled in orbit, Mara realized that lifting the blade wasn't victory, it was invitation. And whatever she'd just invited was coming. The alarms were deafening. Crimson light pulsed through the flagship's cathedral-like corridors, painting every silver surface in blood. The dying star outside surged, flaring with unnatural brightness that bathed the Dominion fleet in fire. It was as if the universe itself had taken a sharp breath and was holding it. Mara Holt staggered to her feet, still clutching the blade. The metal hummed, no, sang, a low vibration that thrummed through her bones. The air around it shimmered, warping slightly as though reality bent to make room for it. Her vision blurred. 1,000 voices echoed at the edge of hearing, whispers layered upon whispers, in no language she knew. She felt the words more than heard them, like a pulse against her mind, chosen. Bound. Awakened. Mara. She turned. Sergeant Kyle Rourke, her second in command, was forcing his way through the chaos. His armor gleamed with scorch marks, his face pale beneath the flickering lights. "What the hell did you do?" he demanded. She swallowed hard, looking down at the weapon still in her grasp. The blade's light dimmed and brightened like a heartbeat. "I don't know." Across the chamber, Admiral Threxon Var hadn't moved. His eyes were locked on her, his mandibles twitching in something that was not quite fear, but dangerously close. Around him, his officers muttered in the guttural tones of their language, some retreating, others lowering their weapons instinctively, as though in the presence of a god. Threxon raised a clawed hand. The chamber fell silent, save for the steady hum of the blade. "Human," he said, each syllable thick with disbelief, "you were not meant to touch it. The blade of Orcor rejects all lesser beings. It is bound to the will of the Dominion." His eyes flicked toward the weapon, narrowing. "And yet, it accepts you." Mara tightened her grip. "I didn't ask for it to." Threxon stepped forward, the deck groaning under his massive frame. "You have awakened something you cannot control. Do you even know what that relic is?" Rourke's rifle came up instantly. "Stay back." The Admiral's gaze shifted, cold and disdainful. "Your weapons are toys. Lower them, before I tear the oxygen from your blood." Mara stepped between them, blade raised. The movement wasn't conscious, it was instinct. The weapon's balance was perfect, its weight non-existent. When she lifted it, the hum deepened, and the entire chamber felt it. A subtle shift, like gravity itself, had turned to face her. "Try me," she said. For the first time, Threxin hesitated. Not from fear, but from recognition. Then his eyes darkened. "You are a fool." The deck lurched violently. Somewhere deep in the ship, metal screamed as the engines strained. Through the viewport, the dying star flared again, brighter, wilder. Streams of plasma lashed out like tentacles, swallowing the blackness beyond. The flagship's shields shimmered under the onslaught. "Admiral," one of the alien officers shouted in their language. "The star is destabilizing. Core emissions rising beyond prediction." Threxin snapped a command. But Mara barely heard him. Because the whispers in her mind had turned to screams. She dropped to one knee, clutching her head. The voices cascaded in layers, ancient, endless, furious. Images exploded behind her eyes, battles across galaxies, ships burning, an empire rising and falling. The blade of Orcor wasn't a weapon. It was a recording of death itself, a memory of every life it had ever taken. "Mara!" Rourke grabbed her arm. "Talk to me, what's happening?" She gasped, choking on light. "It's showing me things. The Dominion, their wars, how this blade fed on them." The Admiral turned sharply. "Lies. The blade is sacred. It is the heart of our honor." Mara's eyes snapped open, and they glowed faint, blue-white, like the weapon itself. "It's the heart of your slaughter. Every time it was raised, it took more than blood. It took souls." The chamber fell deathly silent. And then the flagship shuddered. Panels exploded. The air filled with smoke and sparks. Sirens wailed again as the ship tilted. Through the viewport, the dying star's surface boiled, tendrils of energy twisting toward the fleet. Threxin's command voice cut through the chaos. "Stabilize orbit. Channel all power to the shield arrays." But the systems were unresponsive. The blade's resonance was disrupting everything, every circuit, every pulse of the ship's reactor. It wasn't just feeding off her, it was communicating with the star. Rourke turned to Mara, panic etched across his face. "If that thing's connected to the star, we have to get rid of it." "I can't," she said. The words came out hollow. "It won't let me." The alien officers were shouting now, scrambling across consoles. A few dropped to their knees before Threxin, chanting prayers in their rasping tongue. Others fled. The Admiral stood unmoving, his gaze fixed on Mara. "It chose you," he said softly, as though realizing it for the first time. "After all our centuries of service, the blade chose a human. Do you understand what that means?" Mara glared at him through the haze. "I don't care what it means. I just want to stop whatever this is before we all die." Threxin stepped closer, his eyes reflecting the pulsing light. "Then listen carefully, human. The blade of Orcor was forged from the heart of a dying sun. It binds its wielder to the cosmic order, the cycle of destruction and rebirth. If it resonates with that star," he gestured toward the viewport, "where fire consumed the horizon, then you are now part of its death." Mara's stomach twisted. "You're saying, what, it's using me to destroy this system?" Threxin's expression hardened. "No. It is testing you. If you fail, it will consume everything. If you master it, you may live." The star's light grew so intense it painted the Admiral's armor white-hot. The deck buckled beneath their feet. "Mara," Rourke said, gripping her shoulder, "we have to move now." But she couldn't. Her body locked as the blade began to hum louder, deeper, until it wasn't sound anymore but vibration in her bones. Her vision blurred again, and suddenly she wasn't aboard the flagship. She stood in space, suspended above a burning sun. Around her, shapes, vast and ancient, drifted like phantoms of light, colossal beings of metal and flame, their eyes like singularities. She heard them speak, not with words, but through the very fabric of time. "Bearer of the forgotten flame, do not falter. Prove that life still deserves the fire." The vision shattered. She fell to the deck, gasping. The blade's light dimmed. The ship steadied. Outside, the star quieted, for now. Rourke knelt beside her, shaking her. Mara! You're burning up. She looked at her hands. They were glowing faintly, the same pulsing light as the weapon. The voices faded, leaving silence so deep it hurt. Threxen approached slowly, his voice low. The trial has begun. Mara met his gaze, sweat and blood streaking her face. What trial? The blade has chosen you to complete the cycle it began, he said. It will demand sacrifice. If you refuse, this star and every ship in orbit will burn. Her grip tightened around the hilt. Then we find a way to stop it. The Admiral's mandibles twitched in what might have been approval or pity. There is no stopping what has already awakened. There is only surviving it. The star flared again, softer this time, like a heartbeat echoing hers. The ship's sensors stabilized, and silence fell across the bridge. But deep within the dying sun, something stirred, something vast, ancient, and aware. And it was listening. Silence filled the bridge. It was the kind of silence that follows a scream too vast, too hollow. Beyond the viewport, the dying star burned lower, its flares twisting inward like molten wings folding in prayer. The Dominion flagship hung above it, motionless, a dark silhouette against the cosmic inferno. Lieutenant Mara Holt stood at the center, swaying slightly, the blade of Orcor still in her grasp. Its glow had softened to a steady pulse, the same rhythm as her heartbeat. Each pulse sent faint ripples through the air, distorting the holographic displays and making the alien officers flinch. Sergeant Rourke stayed close, weapon drawn but forgotten. You holding up? He asked quietly. Mara exhaled. Define holding up. He gave a grim smile. Still breathing. That counts. The voice of Admiral Threxen Var cut through the quiet. You feel it now, don't you? The blade's will. The bond. He stepped closer, the floor vibrating under his armored weight. You've become its conduit. Its lifeline to this realm. Mara's eyes flicked toward him. And what happens if I break that bond? Threxen's mandibles tightened. Then the star dies and everything within 10 light minutes with it. Rourke cursed under his breath. That's half the fleet. The Admiral didn't look at him. His black eyes stayed locked on Mara. The blade is older than my species. Older than yours. It is the voice of creation's fire. You have awakened it, now you must see it through. Mara looked down at the weapon. It no longer seemed foreign. It fit her hand, like it had always been waiting for it. But beneath that comfort, she could feel the pulse of something immense, hungry, aware. I saw things, she said. When I touched it. Those giants, those shapes made of light. They called it the Forgotten Flame. Threxen inclined his head. The first forgers. The architects of suns. They crafted the blade from the death of a star to test those who would claim dominion over the cosmos. The Dominion believes we are their heirs. His gaze hardened. But it seems the cosmos disagrees. The hum deepened again, a low, resonant note that made the deck tremble. Outside, the star flared, casting long shadows across the bridge. Rourke steadied himself against the wall. Mara, we need to think fast. The ship's reactor's still unstable. We've got 20 minutes before the core melts into the planet below. Mara didn't answer. The whispers had returned, faint, distant, but growing clearer. Light must be tested. Fire must consume to be reborn. She clenched her jaw. It wants something from me. Threxen's gaze sharpened. It wants judgment. The blade grew hot in her hand, not burning, but searing with purpose. Images flashed again in her mind, planets torn apart, fleets burning, human cities turned to ash under Dominion fire. The blade wasn't showing her random destruction. It was showing her the pattern. Every war. Every empire. Every rise and fall. Each time the blade appeared, it marked the end of an age. Rourke stepped closer. Mara, whatever it's telling you, don't listen. We just need to get out of here. She turned toward him, eyes glowing faintly. It's not just talking. It's remembering. Threxin moved nearer, his voice low and reverent. You are the vessel of the sun's will. Accept it, and your species will be written into the next era. Reject it, and humanity will burn with us. Mara stared at the Admiral. The hum of the blade drowned out the alarms, the ship, the voices around her. Only his words and the whisper of the weapon remained. She realized, then, what the test truly was. It wasn't strength. It wasn't power. It was choice. For centuries, the blade had chosen conquerors, those willing to destroy in the name of survival. Now, for the first time, it had chosen someone who hesitated. And that hesitation was hope. Admiral, Mara said, raising the blade. You said the blade is bound to the cycle, destruction and rebirth. Yes. Then what happens, she said quietly, if I refuse to destroy? The Admiral froze. You can't. The blade demands an end. It will take it from you if you will not give it. Maybe, Mara said. But maybe it's time it learned something new. She turned toward the viewport. The dying star throbbed, massive and restless, a living furnace moments from collapse. The blade's hum matched its rhythm perfectly. Rourke grabbed her arm. Mara, what are you doing? She met his eyes. Something stupid. Something human. And she stepped forward, raising the blade toward the star. The entire bridge erupted with light. Energy exploded outward, slamming Threxin and Rourke to the deck. The air rippled like water, heat waves distorting everything. The blade screamed, a sound that wasn't made for mortal ears. But Mara didn't flinch. She pressed forward, her boots sliding on the trembling floor as she lifted the weapon higher. Her voice broke through the storm. You want fire? You want proof that life deserves to endure? She closed her eyes. Then take it. The blade flared white hot. Its hum rose to a shriek, and suddenly every display, every console, every living thing aboard the ship froze. Outside, the dying star convulsed. Its surface tore open like a wound. And then... light. Not the burning kind. Not destruction. It was release. The star's flares reversed, curling inward, collapsing into a sphere of pure brilliance that pulsed once, twice, and then stabilized. The blade of Orcor dissolved into motes of blue light that spiraled around Mara, then scattered into the void. When the light faded, she stood alone, her armor scorched, her hand empty. The alarms had gone silent. The bridge crew slowly rose to their feet. Through the viewport, the star no longer bled. It shone new, reborn, golden, and alive. Admiral Threxin staggered forward, staring at it in disbelief. That is impossible. No blade has ever spared a sun. Mara turned to him, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe it just needed to see mercy once. Rourke exhaled, shaky and odd. You did it. You actually, damn, Holt, you fixed a star. She smiled faintly. Guess I'm more of a mechanic than I thought. But even as relief washed over them, the Admiral's eyes were distant. The Dominion will not understand this mercy. They will see weakness. Then teach them what strength really is, she said. You saw what the blade did. You saw what it chose. He looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, Threxin Var bowed, the motion deliberate, ancient, reverent. Perhaps, he said, the universe has found its balance at last. Hours later, the Terran Alliance retrieval cruiser TAS Resolute docked with the Dominion flagship. Mara watched the reborn star through the viewport, its golden light steady and calm. Rourke joined her, arms folded. So, he said, what now? She smiled faintly. Now. I get some sleep. Maybe a promotion. And the blade? She looked down at her empty hand. A faint, fading scar of light traced across her palm, shaped like a flame. It's gone, she said softly. But, maybe it's not meant to be held forever. Maybe it just needed someone to let go. Outside, the newborn star flared bright and pure, its light washing across the hall like a promise. Mara closed her eyes, feeling its warmth. In the vast silence of space, a single truth echoed, older than any empire, older than war itself. The fire that destroys can also create. And sometimes, the bravest act is not to conquer, but to forgive.